What's up guys, it's Eric from Rare Candy and welcome back to another entry into our Rogue Rumble series where we take a look at some overrated or underlooked cards and we try to make some decks out of them. So for this one we're taking a look at the Dusknoir from Burning Shadows. In this new format, stage 2s are kind of good, and in our set review we did mention we kind of like this card, so we figured now seems like a decent time. Let's see if we can make something out of this deck. So let's take a look. We have a 3/1/3 Dusknoir line. It's the one from Burning Shadows, like I just mentioned. So it's 150 hit points, stage 2. That's pretty decent for a stage 2. That's a non-GX, I suppose. But the first thing that catches our eye about this card is the Dark Invitation ability. So once during your turn before you attack, you may have your opponent reveal their hand and put a basic Pokemon from their hand on their bench with 3 damage counters. So this is really nice, especially if your opponent has something like a Tapu Lele GX in their hand. You can force them to bench it without getting to activate its ability, and it also takes some damage. That's pretty solid. There's other uses for this card too. You can force your opponent to bench all sorts of other things that might not be that good in their matchup against you, and you get knowledge of your opponent's hand as well. So you might be thinking, should I end my opponent this turn? I want to end, but I'm not sure if they have a bad hand, so Dark Invitation helps out in those situations too. But it has synergy with its attack, Mind Jack. For a Psychic and DCE, it does 30 plus 30 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So you guys actually might think this looks a little familiar. It's very similar to the Zoroark back from Breakthrough, and so you might be asking, well, why would you want to play Dusknoir when you could just play Zoroark? And generally I would actually tend to agree with you. But you know what? It's a stage 2, which means we get to play Rare Candy, which we are hype about in this. But also, even though it is a stage 2 and takes 1 extra energy, Mind Jack does a little bit more damage with Dusknoir as opposed to Zoroark. So 30 plus 30 more for each of their bench Pokemon. If they have a full bench, you're swinging for 180, which is very nice. You get to knock out things like Tapu Bulu GX, Volcanion EX, Tapu Lele GX, etc. So very good there. And if you have a choice band, you get to knock out a lot of these stage 1 GXs like Golisopod GX, Alolan Ninetales GX, etc. So Dusknoir, it actually hits for some pretty good numbers, but against certain decks in the format, it's a little bit shy, so it definitely needs some other partners to help with that. So let's check out what else we have. So we're playing 2 Tapu Koko. That's going to be for this Flying Flip attack. It does 20 to each of your opponent's Pokemon for just a DCE. So against things like maybe Gardevoir GX or Metagross GX, we're going to need to Flying Flip a couple times to really soften up all of their opponent to take one-hit knockouts with Dusknoir. So that's why we're playing this guy, and it also gives us the option of kind of going for an alternate win condition and kind of going the spread route. So because of that, we are also playing 1 Espeon EX for that Miraculous Shine attack. Devolve each of your opponent's evolved Pokemon, put the highest stage back into their hand. So we are playing the 2 Tapu Kokos. We also have Potown in this list, which we'll get to in a minute. So we have, like I said, an alternate win condition available to us. We're also playing 1 Oranguru for that Instruct ability. So once during your turn before you attack, you may draw until you have 3 cards in hand. So even though this can't be used all the time, it's very good in the late game if your opponent tries to end you to a low hand size. But also there's certain turns where you just need to dig through your deck a little bit more and try to hit certain things to complete combos, maybe like a Rare Candy to finish evolving, or maybe like a DCE to attack. So Instruct is just generally a solid ability. And the last Pokemon we were playing 3 Tapu Lele GX for that Wonder Tag ability. Whenever you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, when Dusknoir is not doing it to you, of course, you search your deck for a supporter card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So that's the main reason we were playing Tapu Lele, but since we run DCE and Psychic Energy, we also have access to Energy Drive and Tapu Cure GX if we choose to as well. So going on to our supporter cards, a lot of this will look very standard for Sycamore 4N. To draw cards, we have 3 Guzma to choose what we want to take knockouts on. We have 1 Bridget to search out basics out of our deck. So all pretty standard stuff you're seeing in a lot of these post-rotation decks. But then we're also playing 1 copy of Skyla, search your deck for a training card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So this is always a card I've kind of enjoyed in these Rare Candy based decks. So you might have a rare candy in your hand, but you might not have your Dusknoir, or vice versa. And so Skyla gives you the option of searching right for that rare candy, or for that Ultra Ball, or just whatever supporter or trainer card that you might need for the turn. So going on, we have 4 Ultra Ball, pretty standard. 4 copies of rare candy. It lets us skip the Dusclops, go straight to Dusknoir. And you might be thinking, well, you're only playing a 3-1-3 line of Dusknoir, so why are you playing 4 rare candy? Well, even though that is the case, you know, we still want to get Dusknoir out as quick as possible, so that's why we're still playing the 4 copies of rare candy. And just in case you guys might be wondering why we are playing the lower count of Dusknoir, in my experience, it's going to be very difficult to power up 4 Dusknoir over the course of a game just because of its attack cost. So that's why we are playing the thinner count of it, but like I said, we still want to get it out as quick as possible, so we're still playing the high count of rare candy. So we have 2 Field Blower to discard our opponent's stadiums and tools, and we can also get rid of things like float stones on our opponent's Garboders if they ever try to shut off our abilities. That's going to be kind of the main reason we're playing the 2 copies of Field Blower. But there's some other cool plays you can do since we're playing Tapu Koko. If your opponent has some float stones in play, you can discard them, then Guzma up something with a high retreat cost and spread around them if need be. So for some recovery options, we are playing a split between 1 Rescue Stretcher and 1 Super Rod. So we're playing Rescue Stretcher because it gives us the flexibility of getting a Pokemon from our discard back into our hand. But then we're also playing 1 Super Rod as well. Since we aren't playing a high count of Psychic Energy, I wanted the flexibility of being able to get energy back into our deck as well. So that's why we are playing the even split between both of them. We're also playing 1 copy of Special Charge. Shuffle 2 special energies from your discard back into your deck. So this deck is extremely double colorless energy reliant. I found, you know, typically in the early turns, you want to use Flying Flip once or twice. So let's say 2 Tapu Kokos go down, each with a DCE, assuming you don't have any more DCEs prized, or you know, anything like that, or you didn't have to discard them with Sycamores or Ultra Balls. You only have access to 2 for the rest of the game. So that means at most you're going to be able to attack with 2 Dusknoirs or 2 Tapu Lele, just because getting 3 manual Psychic Energies down on a Dusknoir is a little much to ask for, I think. So we're playing the Special Charge just to ensure we always have access to our DCEs. And speaking of which, we are playing kind of an interesting card in the list. We are playing 1 copy of Energy Lotto, or Energy Loto, however you want to pronounce this. Honestly guys, this is a card I never thought I would ever include in a deck on our channel, but here we are. It's our first time for everything, I suppose. So the reason I've chosen to include this is because, you know, the deck, like I mentioned, is incredibly reliant on DCEs, and I was getting very frustrated whiffing them at certain times. So let's look at the card. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You may reveal an energy you find there and put it into your hand. So originally I ran 4 double colorless and 7 psychic, kind of a standard energy count in some of these psychic DCE based decks, like if you look at Espeon Garb or even like a Necrozma Garb and stuff like that. I think that's a common kind of energy count. So what I did is I opted to cut the 7th psychic energy and play 1 of these instead, just because it basically is effectively gives you the odds of drawing 1 of 5 DCEs and 6 psychics instead. So that's why we're playing this card. And also similarly, if you have DCE in hand but you want a psychic, it gives you the flexibility of digging for that instead. And since we play Skyla, it gives us the option to grab it with that. So there's some times when you can actually Skyla for this card, and it effectively acts as Skyling for a double colorless energy for turn. So I just felt like whiffing DCE was too big in this deck, so that's why we're playing the 1 of Energy Lotto. Next up, we have 3 copies of Po Town. So whenever any player plays a Pokemon from their hand to evolve one of their Pokemon, put 3 damage counters on that Pokemon. So like I said, there's a couple of decks in particular, like Gardevoir and Metagross, where you're a little shy of taking knockouts, and between Po Town and Tapu Koko, it increases your odds of being able to take one-hit knockouts. And you might be thinking, well, you play Dusknoir, you know, why would you play Po Town? You're going to damage your own Pokemon. Well, it's because Dusknoir, it's weird to say, only has 150 hit points. It's sad that that is considered low, but you know, in today's format, you know, a lot of things can knock you out. Gardevoir GX, Metagross GX, Tapu Bulu GX, a low in Ninetales GX, so 150 is not a hard number to hit. So I felt like taking the 3 damage counters is kind of insignificant in most cases. So Potown I feel like helps us more than hurts us. And the last trainer cards we have for our Pokemon tools are going to be 3 copies of Choice Band to do more damage to GXs and EXs, and also 3 copies of Floatstone, just to ensure we always have free retreat, since our Dusknoirs do have a 3 retreat cost. Our Rangaroo has a 2 retreat cost. I felt like a couple copies of this card were going to be needed. And going on to the energy counts, 4 DCE and 6 Psychic, pretty straightforward. Yeah, that's going to be the list we are going to try out. Let's see if Dusknoir is going to be worth anything. So I'm going to switch over to the battle portion of the video. And guys, make sure you do watch all the way through, because recently we did start adding in free PTCGO codes that will pop up on screen in our PTCGO videos from now on. So definitely watch until the end of the video to get a free code. But anyways guys, let's switch over to that and we'll show you how this looks in action. Alright guys, we have ourselves a game and we're going to call the coin flip, which we do once. That's definitely always a good thing. So let's see what we can start with. Big bunch of nothing, so let's try that again. And our opponent is going to take a mulligan as well, so that's good for us. And let's see what they're actually playing. So here it's just going to show us our mulligan. And what's our opponent have? Greninja. Okay, this actually this is not a matchup I actually really want to go against, to be honest. You know, we have this whole spread strategy, which is kind of slow, which isn't, you know, being slow against Greninja is not the best thing. And then potentially if they ever get Greninja Break Online, they'll be able to make quick work of our Dusknoirs. But the one thing we do have going for us is that we generally play non-EX and GX attackers, so let's have to see how this goes. Here I'm going to Ultra Ball for the Tapu Koko. You know, well, we could just go for Lele, I suppose, but here I'm going to actually go for Duskull. We can't attack on the first turn anyway, so I'm going to prioritize getting on Duskull. And here we could have gone for the turn 1 Bridget, but we need an energy attachment. And we still didn't get one. Excellent. But we can keep digging. We do have this Rangaroo, so let's put that down. We can put the Choice Band, and, well, we have Dusclops in the discard. Let's use Rescue Stretcher, throw it back in the discard pile. Or throw it back in the deck. So I'm digging really hard because we need an energy attachment at least this turn. Excellent, so we do hit the DC, that's good. So now all we need is an energy for next turn to retreat this Lele or the Floatstone that we currently have in hand. So yeah, we just needed to make sure we got that energy attachment. That was the big thing. So we're actually having a pretty good start so far. And here opponent's going to just get a second Froakie and Bubble. And they get heads on the coin flips. That is definitely unfortunate. So here I'm just going to use Brookwood Hill. Even though we don't have any targets in the deck, I just kind of want to take a peek and see what all is in there. I didn't get a good look the last turn. And so here I'm just going to attach this Floatstone to the Tapu Lele and play in, just to get a fresh hand. Okay, and we get Potown. That's actually pretty big as well. So even though we can't retreat and start using Flying Flip, we can at the least put down this Potown and maybe get some damage counters on our opponent's field. So that'll be good. And we could potentially get a Dusclops out first as well. So just taking a peek at what we've already used. So what I might do is I might get rid of our... Probably Guzma I think is okay, because we have this Lele in hand if we need another one. So I think we'll get rid of that and the Dusknoir, because we have a couple more left in the deck, and I think we still have Super Rod in there, so you know, I think we'll be okay if we get rid of this one. So let's grab Dusclops. And again, just taking a peek one more time, I wanted to make sure Super Rod was in fact in the deck. So we will have a way to get that Dusknoir back out of there. Here we're going to put down Potown, and I'm going to use Instruct just to get a couple more cards. And of course now we hit Rare Candy after we get rid of the Dusknoir, but nevertheless we have the Dusclops, so you know, that's decent at least. Your opponent is going to evolve into Frogadier, so that's good for us. They're going to get some damage down on their board. So both these Frogadiers have 30 hit points, or I'm sorry, 30 damage on them, so that's definitely good for us. And here we're going to see a Water Duplicates. So our opponent is starting to set up, but you know what? I think we're still in an okay spot. We have Tapu Koko we can spread with, but what do we do this turn? That's the question. We could end our opponent, but here I think I'm just going to Sycamore. I want to dig a little deeper and try to get down some other stuff, but here what do we do? Definitely want to play an Ultra Ball. We can probably get rid of a Psychic Energy since we already have one in play. And maybe... Because, you know, I would love to actually rare candy into a Dusknoir, but at the same time, I don't know. We already have energy on the Dusclops, but I think we still just go for it. We do have another Dusknoir in the deck, and we're really not going to be attacking with it for a few turns, I would imagine. So nice, we use Dark Invitation, we're going to get a Froakie on the bench, so it's another Pokemon with some damage counters that we can capitalize on at some point. And we still have a Psychic Energy for turn, so let's actually attach that to the Dusknoir. And now basically all of our attackers are just a DCE away from being able to attack the Dusclops, Dusknoir, the Lele. And so here we're going to start using Flying Flip. So, you know, we haven't taken any prizes, but we're really softening up our opponent's board pretty well. And an Enhanced Hammer, that's actually kind of annoying. And here our opponent is, they're going to get their first Greninja online and a second one. The good part about it is that Po-Town is in place, so that is definitely going to soften up, you know, their board a little bit for us. And here our opponent's going to use Moonlight Slash. Luckily that does not knock out this Coco. It will be able to survive a hit. We just need a DCE. And awesome, we top deck Sycamore. That's actually pretty big. And, you know, let's use Dark Invitation. So our opponent just has a Timer Ball and a Water Energy, so we're definitely not going to end here. Let's use that Sycamore. We'll get rid of our hand. And hopefully get a DCE. Ooh, and we have Espeon. That's actually interesting. So, you know, we could attach the DCE to Tapu Koko or Dusknoir and, you know, take some knockouts that way, but Espeon actually, I think, in the long term might... Espeon might be the better play here. You know, let's use the Energy Lotto. I want to get a Psychic Energy if possible. Hey, there we go. So Energy Lotto coming in kind of clutch here in this first game. Here we're going to retreat into Espeon, and we're going to use Miraculous Shine. So basically what we're going to be able to do now is, since we have Po-Town in play, we can de-evolve our opponent's Greninjas every turn, and every turn they re-evolve into them, they take damage. So basically if they don't bump this Po-Town, they're kind of going to be in an endless loop of evolving and taking damage from us. So if they don't bump our stadium, we can actually just use Espeon to win the whole game. Assuming they don't knock it out at some point, or use like a Wally or something like that. So I think we're in a pretty good spot. What does our opponent have here? Okay, so they do have the Water Energy, that's good. And here we're just going to see a Moonlight Slash. So yet again, I am pretty okay with this. And actually what we can do now is, you know, we could use this Espeon to de-evolve yet again. But what I want to do here is, well, I guess just win. I was going to say, at that point, we could have actually spread with Tapu Koko and taken 3 more knockouts. So, you know, Greninja being kind of slow really worked against itself there. But let's get one more game in, hopefully one we can actually close one out and have a full game with. So let's try this one. Here we see a Grass deck box, so maybe some sort of Tapu Bulu or Golisopod variant. I think that would be a safe assumption. And we're just going to take a mulligan. And we start with 3 Lele's in hand. That's a little excessive. So I guess let's start with a Rangaroo, I think. I think that's probably the best choice. We have the Float Stone. I don't really want to start with a Lele, even though it is an okay attacker. You know, I'd prefer to save those Lele's to get supporters out when we need them. So, moment of truth, what are we playing against? Well, I guess our opponent is just selecting some more Pokemon first to get started. So, I really don't know what they should be afraid of. Okay, so yeah, they're just going to start with Tapu Koko. So if I had to guess... Well, it actually could be Bulu or Golisopod still. It just really depends on what they're going to get off this Bridget. That'll finally tell us what we're going against. So we're going to see a Bridget. So 2 Wimpods and a Trubbish. Okay, so this is going to be Golisopod Garbodor. And, okay, so on to our turn. We do hit a Duskull, which is definitely good. Could put down the Float Stone. And here, what do we do? That's the big question. So we could go for a Bridget, but we really need an energy attachment. So here, I'm favoring the N. That way we would get an attachment, but let's take a look, see what else we can do. You know, if we we do have a way to get Coco online, so that could actually be good. So checking, we have 3 DC in the deck. You know, one play we could actually go for, it's a little risky, we could go for a Skyla. And what we can do is we can Ultra Ball for a Tapu Koko and then use Skyla to go for an Energy Lotto to get DCE, potentially. Either way, it will more than likely net us an energy. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to Skyla, I'm going to go for the Energy Lotto. We're going to play this Ultra Ball, getting rid of a Lele and Rare Candy. And we're going to go for the Tapu Koko. I'm playing Ultra Ball before the Energy Lotto because we want to take cards out of our deck. And here we do hit the DC, so that's actually pretty big. Energy Lotto coming in clutch yet again. I never thought I would actually say that. But here we're going to instruct for just a few more cards to continue getting set up. So nothing too crucial, but we will have a supporter ready to go for next turn. So here we can just use Flying Flip and start setting up some knockouts. You know, unfortunately Glisspod can easily take a knockout on Tapu Koko if need be. But the 20 damage, getting that down on the Glisspod can be kind of relevant. So let's see what our opponent is going to opt to do here. You know, maybe it would have been better to go the Dusknoir route. I'm not sure, but you know, it would have required our Duskull to stay in play basically without getting Guzma up. It would have required them having a full bench. We would have needed a choice band and an energy on the next turn. So I think it would have been a lot to ask for. Pierrot's going to get out the Baby Glisspod. I am happy to see that come down. It's really not a great attacker against this deck since it's really mainly good against GXs. Here, our opponent is going to use First Impression, taking a knockout. Okay, and what are we going to do here? So our opponent only has a 2-card hand. You know, what are the odds that they do have a support? That's what I'm trying to think. So here I'm going to Ultra Ball, getting rid of this N and this Lele. Here we're going to go for another Tapu Koko. Could be a decent free retreater, or we could get a Duskull. But I like having a free retreater on the board at you know, pretty much all times. We do have this Floatstone Oranguru, but you know, the Floatstone is just a field blower away from getting taken out. Here let's instruct, draw a couple more cards. And we hit we hit 2 cards I really did not want to see, but we can at least use the field blower. Getting rid of that choice band, that'll make it harder for them to take one-hit knockouts on our Leles, at the least. Okay, so we did whiff the energy, which is definitely unfortunate. So here, I'm just going to retreat, I think, into this Duskull, kind of let it take a hit and get knocked out here if need be. Our opponent needs a DCE or a Guzma in order to take a knockout here. So let's see what they're going to opt to go for. So they are going to get down another Wimpod. Here they have the Guzma. Oh, and they're actually going for Tapu Koko, and I'm actually perfectly okay with this. I'm not sure if our opponent is aware of what Dusknoir does, but you know, with a full bench like that, Dusknoir can actually kind of put a whooping on this Glisspod. So, you know, I'm cool with sacrificing the Koko here. And so we're going to get Dusknoir in play. And man, I really don't want to end our opponent, but at the same time, I don't want to Sycamore away all these resources, so I think we're just going to have to end here. Our opponent is only going to have a 4-card hand, and they can't play any more Leles at this point. So here we're going to play Special Charge. Oh, I thought we had 2 in the discard, but nevertheless, we'll still get 1 back, so that's not too bad, I suppose. And, yeah, I think we just have to pass. We can retreat into this Duskull. That's an option. But here I'm just going to pass, just in case our opponent were to go for like a Tapu Koko spread, if they had done something like that, I guess. But also here, by keeping the Oranguru in the active spot, it's going to force our opponent to burn their GX move. And that's another reason why as well, because right now Armor Press only does 100 damage, and a Choice Band won't add any extra damage, so it's going to force our opponent, like I said, to use their GX move. But here they're going to go for the Guzma instead, you know, opting to knock out this Duskull. So our opponent is, you know, going down on prizes pretty quickly. We have still not taken a single one, but you know, we're about to power up this Dusknoir, so we're going to be in an okay spot, I think. We really need, we definitely have some interesting plays at our disposal here. So we can just attack this Glisspod, but we're going to be 10 damage short. Or we could Guzma up this Lele, and we could actually take a knockout on that. But here, I'm just going to retreat. and attack with Mind Jack, because if we take out the Lele, that frees them up a bench spot to play their own Lele, and they don't have a DCE right now, so I don't really want to give them more outs to getting a DCE to knock out our Dusknoir. So it's a little risky, and we don't get any prizes, but okay, so I'm fine with this. Our opponent is going to end us. They're only going to get 3 cards, so chances are they won't hit a DCE this turn. So let's see what they're going to opt to do here. Oh, they do have the DC, but it's going on Tapu Lele. That's interesting. Okay. Huh. I definitely think that might have been a misplay from our opponent, but I had to be honest, because if they attached the DCE, they could have used Cross and Cut GX to knock out our Dusknoir, and then they would have gone to the bench. So it would have forced me to have a Guzma in order to take a knockout. So I definitely think that was a misplay on our opponent's part here. But here I'm going to use Mind Jack yet again, taking a knockout. Okay, so we get a Guzma off the prizes. That's pretty good, I suppose. So here they're going to promote this Lele, so that must mean they are going to be able to knock out Dusknoir this turn, if I just had to guess. Okay, here they're going to end yet again. I'm cool with that. We have a Rangaroo in play, so we can always draw out of this if need be. Okay, and this is actually a pretty workable hand. We can Ultra Ball away some cards and grab a Dusknoir this turn. And here opponent misplays. I think again they could have attached their DCE to this Tapu Lele, taking a knockout on Dusknoir. So maybe they just miscalculated their damage or something, but that is definitely a huge misplay on their part, because now we are going to be able to probably take a knockout on this Lele this turn. So here let's go for another Dusknoir. Just starting to load up the second one, and here we can use Dark Invitation to try to get another Pokemon on our opponent's bench, but let's instruct as well first. Okay, so we have Super Rod. We could play that. Could get rid of the Field Blower, or we could play the Field Blower. I kind of like that, getting rid of the Floatstone on Trubbish, just in case a Garbotoxin Garbiter comes online. But here, let's get back a Coco and I think 2 Lele. That's pretty good. So if our opponent does end us, we will have more outs to getting a supporter. So here we're going to use Floatstone, getting rid of the Floatstone Trubbish and Golisopod. That seems pretty good to me, and here we can just end both of us as well. But first let's Dark Invitation. Nice, so we do hit a Tapu Lele. We're going to throw that on the bench, so our opponent won't actually be able to activate it. And then we are going to end ourselves into a new hand as well. Okay, so I think we attached the Psychic to Tapu Lele. Again, I want all of our Pokemon to be just a DCE away from attacking. But here, I might put down the Choice Band as well. I don't know. I think I'll hold on to it. Our opponent has not played any Field Blowers yet, so if we throw it down, our opponent might just be able to take it off. Okay, so we're going to get a DC and Guzma off prizes, 2 very good prizes. We can actually, if they don't end us, we can take a knockout on this Tapu Lele for the game. Okay, yeah, and like I said, our opponent did have a Field Blower ready to go, so good thing I did not play down the Choice Band. But here, since our opponent did not end, you know, they can take a knockout on this Dusknoir, but we are in a good spot now. We can just promote this Oranguru, even though it doesn't have a Floatstone, no big deal. Because now we can attach a DCE for turn, but we're just going to Dark Invitation first just to get some extra damage if possible, but we whiffed there. But nevertheless, we'll attach the Choice Band, and we're going to Guzma up this Lele, promoting Dusknoir, and we're going to use Mind Jack to take the very last knockout here. So 180 damage, knocking out that Lele, and we are going to take this one against Golisopod Garb, one of the better decks in the format. So Dusknoir definitely can be decent at times. But yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this look at this deck. Definitely pretty fun to play. I always enjoy playing these weird Stage 2 decks. It's an excuse to play Rare Candy, so definitely okay with that. But as usual, feel free to like and subscribe, and if you can support us on our Patreon /RareCandyTCG, or pick up something from our online store at rarecandytcg.com, it'd be greatly appreciated. But with that, I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you for the next one.